Coldest morning yet. Quite sure that we've dipped below 50. I crossed over into the Eastern time zone yesterday, and my body is still thinking somewhere between Mountain Time and Central Time. Well, there's my path to the lower peninsula of Michigan. So essentially this is like the Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4 of the era. They have a shower. It's the first campground with shower facilities that I've had yet. Well, I feel like a new man. Early night, but a late start in the morning. Again, clearly my body is still thinking a more westerly time zone. But I went to bed at 9:45 local time, so I'm sleeping long. Gotcha. The other thing I noticed is I'm making my oatmeal breakfast this morning, as I normally do, and I saw that my tripod for my camera was knocked down off of the picnic table, and I can't find my raisins, except for one solo raisin on the table by itself. Other than that, there's no evidence that there ever was any raisins, so I think I was visited by a friend in the middle of the night. So we'll have oatmeal without raisins. And so this is day 12. My trip in total is 25 days long. So you'd say you're almost to the halfway point. So you must be to the coast and on your way back. No, I am not to the coast. My trip out is going to take longer than my trip back. By just a little bit. Not as much as you think. I had those 2 down days in Fargo with my dad. The destination today is a place that I've heard of 1,000 times. It's in movies, it's in media, it's just pervasive, yeah, at least in American culture. Niagara Falls, kind of, one of the 7th wonders of America, maybe. That's where I'm headed, and I'm headed to upstate New York, a place I haven't been in a very long time. And, well, not today. Actually, I'm going to be on the south side of Lake Erie today. I've never been there. I know nothing about it. But first, coffee, oatmeal, get camp broken down, and away we go again. While it might be a suburban location, if you ignore that fact, it's pretty nice. It's a beautiful morning here. It was also Friday night last night. It's Saturday today, obviously, and it's a weekend. It's busy. That said, all these spots next to me were open all night. And the closest person is they were quiet people. They ran their air conditioner all night, but it was like white noise. It was great. So the other thing I'm trying to determine based upon my history and what I'm seeing is where's the halfway mark on this rear tire of mine. You know, there's still some tread there left, obviously, but it's beginning to get square because of all the interstate riding. I'll just say it right now. There's no way I'm getting through this entire trip without having a square tire if I don't change the tire somewhere on the trip. Well, that'd be pretty soon. But I've ridden these things square down, to 12,000, 13,000 miles. And, when you get to the absolute where this is just smooth transition from block to block and you're in the underlying rubber, there's still a big thick layer of rubber there. And as long as a guy doesn't run into any rain, you're not necessarily, well, you're still rolling, let's put it that way. You're still getting down the road. So I'm going to keep monitoring it. I've certainly gotten 12, 13,000 out of these rears before on these particular Shinkos, but not with this load and not with the kind of heat that I started my trip in. I mean, most of the way to North Dakota was hot, 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 and the asphalt was hot. So, we'll see. Here's a little camping tip, at least my version of it. I take these microfiber towels along to wipe my seat, to clean my windscreen, my visors, and do dishes. And I've got 2 of them. I could separate one completely for dishes and one completely for visor, but really you could get by with one. And here's how I would do that. I use this for windscreens and visors everywhere but the corner with the tag. The corner with the tag is for doing the dishes. And so I always know, and I can just kind of focus on like, okay, I'm doing windscreen or visor, I work on this section. That way, any sort of contaminant that might scratch the plastic of a windscreen or a visor. I thought my helmet was there. Oh, yeah, no, it's over there in the back top box. Any sort of abrasive thing that's in the rag that might scratch, well, odds are it's going to be in that corner, so just don't focus on that corner. So as far as losing my raisins to, I'm going to assume raccoon, but because they're typically the culprit, it's kind of a rookie move on my part to not secure away anything that's a food. Either I was tired or possibly the fact that I am in suburbia. Maybe there was some little thing in the back of my mind saying it isn't necessary. Well, it is, because, we're on the edge of raccoon suburbia. I also have called this Palms, Pines, and Fishing Lines because I knew I was going to run into people fishing. And here at the camp there's a couple of young guys that got fishing poles and they're going to the river, but can't show them, they're minors, and even though we're in a public space, you can't show a minor on YouTube. So well, look who's out here again this morning, busy at it, getting a meal. He loves this grass, or something in this grass. Pretty tame little guy. And once again, I'm going to be on the road an hour later than I'd like to be on the road. It's a good thing that the sun is up a long time this time of year. Goes well into the evening. And it was 9-something p.m. and we still had sunlight. Even though it had dropped below the horizon, it was still light. But, I got a good 5.5, maybe 6 hours of riding today. We can do that. But I got to get this struck down and it's still all wet from the morning dew. So if I'm in too much of a hurry, things don't get dried out. Some of you may ask why, if the bottom of your tent is this plastic tarp material, why bring another plastic tarp? And the reason is right here, is because this is soaking wet. The bottom of my tent is reasonably dry. It's about keeping my tent bottom dry, and this thing is kind of the sacrificial lamb, so to speak. My dryer, I've probably mentioned that. Works really well. One thing that's striking me right away this morning, now that I'm back in more of an urban area and on these interstates, is the sheer number of billboards. You know, they've always been there to some extent, but there are some areas where there are just constant messages from people trying to sell you things, which you can argue one way or the other. You know, in a capitalist society,
People need to sell things to each other. But I've thought for a long time that there's quite a bit of what I call pseudo value in the marketplace, where we sell a lot of nothing. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is extended warranties on disposable electronics. You know, sometimes people actually make claims on those things, I suppose, but how often, really? Anyways, my point is, if I'm annoyed by it now, just wait. One of the things I like to do is keep abreast of what's coming in the future. I think of myself a little bit as a futurist, trying to keep my head in where could this go, you know? And so a couple of the things that I've been reading about and following are decentralization, blockchain technology, and artificial intelligence. And of course, a very big part of what all of that is going to become is some way to trade value with each other, not in the real world, or what they now call IRL, in real life, but in the metaverse. The metaverse being the new universe that is coming within, cyberspace. And, you might laugh at me now, but trust me, watch this video in 10 years. People will perhaps begin their day, this will be one transitory step, by putting on a pair of glasses that is connected to the internet constantly through Bluetooth, through their phone connection, and as they walk around in the real world, in the universe, they'll also be tied to the metaverse. And billboards will be popping up everywhere. As you walk through a downtown area, every little store that's signed up to sell a billboard or a messaging pop-up will do so, and you'll walk by a coffee shop and this thing will pop up in your field of view that says, we've got a sale on lattes. And you go by the dog groomer and they'll say, have you trimmed your dog today? And it's going to be just constant. And it's got me thinking about, today we already bucket human beings into ever smaller buckets, and all of our data, all of our behavioral patterns are being not only tracked and used to sell us things, but also consolidated, and we're starting to fit into certain buckets. They know I'm male, so okay, it's got to be interested in camping, fishing, golf, or hot women. And I get bombarded with, or cars, I'm not really that into cars. I'm into motorcycles, and you bet I get hammered with that. But cars, I like cars, fine, but I get a lot of car stuff, and I'm not that into it. So they're learning as they go, I suppose. But and then the weird people of the future will be the ones that somehow, some way disconnect from all this. And you can say, well, don't put the glasses on. Well, great, it's really just an extension of the phone we have today. And really the phone is the beginning of the metaverse. Soon all of this technology will be implanted into us. Artificial intelligence, human life, and cyber life will become one, and will literally become cyborgs, unless the machines decide there really isn't a point to human life, hopefully they don't arrive at that conclusion. Stephen Hawking and a few other very smart people were warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence. And really, it is one of the absolute most dangerous technologies we have ever come up with. I would argue more so than nuclear technology. And yet today, you know, if somebody has the capability of creating nuclear weapons, we have a handle on that. We know who they are. We do things about it. Anybody today can do research in artificial intelligence. There is no governance over that. Anywho, things that cross my mind when I'm in the peaceful wilderness and then back into modern society briefly. Why did I want to go into Canada and avoid all the big cities down here? So if I was on my original path, I would have been way north of Toronto, because I was going in at Sault Ste. Marie. So this is just the result of the COVID pandemic on my plans. I don't know if these guys are hoping I'll drop dead here or if they're looking for smaller prey. I'm perfectly healthy. Oh, is that my heart? Just a rest stop and a couple of thoughts. One thing I meant to mention when I was in Michigan, all of the state police cars are a particular bright color of blue. Not light blue, but not like navy either. They're just a really blue. And nowhere have I ever seen as many blue cars sold to, private parties. And now that I'm out of Michigan, I'm not seeing as many blue cars again. And so it makes me question whether there's something culturally where, if the police are blue, then for some reason I prefer buying a blue vehicle. And more and more people have that going through their heads than elsewhere where the police cars are not blue. It was just an interesting thing that I picked up, because now I'm picking up that there are not as many blue cars or trucks. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I forget. I remember what it was. Speed traps. One of the miracles of this trip is Mr. Southern California here has gotten this far across the country without a speeding ticket so far. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of keeping it sane, but there are many times where I feel like this is really slow. Fine. I can lay back and be calm and cruise like anybody else, but I do enjoy a little bit quicker pace to things sometimes. So that said, as soon as I entered Ohio, oh my God, are there speed traps. Like, it's predatory. There are so many patrol cars out setting up speed traps that it's, in comparison with all the other states I've been through, I haven't seen anything like it on this trip. So, do they have a right to monitor speed on their roads? Yes. but why more so than any other state in the country? You know, there's something culturally going on here, and I don't know if it's just revenue they're going for or what. You know, in Michigan, they put these big old-fashioned rotating red lights on the top of, they're not actually rotating anymore, but that's what they look like the old Barney Fife police car light on the top of many of their patrol vehicles. And so when they come over the horizon, they look like, you know, a Shriner with his fez on coming. You can spot them 5 miles away and check your speed. And I gotta think that costs the state of Michigan millions in speeding ticket revenues every year, because nobody is going to miss them with that fez on top of their car. I gotta ride. These are just random thoughts. So here's a little road tip. Sometimes you make a stop at one of these, you know, country truck stop areas. I don't know how to describe this effectively, but essentially what you have here is one company with all of the diesel pumps for truckers on one side of the road. Way over there, on the other side of the road behind me, is the auto plaza that's just jam-packed with people. And they got all the same stuff in here, but nobody. I mean, there was like 2 people in there, so I got served right away. I didn't need gas, I just needed a bathroom. So, you know, picked up a beverage and just to buy something to use their bathroom. Thirsty anyways. So there you go, little tip for the road. I made it to New York State, just south of Buffalo, and wanted to stop and show you all these wine grapes. This is wine country, New York style. would have loved to have taken you on a tour of this old historic lighthouse, but it's closed. I'm assuming this thing was toward the top at one point. Probably pretty cool in there. But on to Niagara Falls. It's getting late. Well, this in and of itself would be pretty interesting. Some major rapids and fast-moving water here. But right about here, it starts doing something really crazy. Let me show you. Alright, never mind the water. I'm a little melancholy that I didn't get to go to Canada, because there it is. God, I really wanted to go visit Canada. Anyways, enough of that. The water just flows right over the edge. Let's walk down a bit and film it from the other side. I can't help but look at that and wonder how quickly that would fill my swimming pool. Pretty fast. That is a lot of water. I gotta think on those rocks there is a unique ecosystem that the rest of this state doesn't have. Something a little bit more akin to the rainforests. A couple of boats on the Canadian side that they obviously float up close to the mist. That would be pretty fun to a point. And then those are the Canadian Falls back there. Can't see all of them. They look pretty extraordinary too. Well, I'm glad I made it. I kind of mismanaged my time taking that Highway 5, but it was cool. I liked that road through the New York vineyards. I think I'm just gonna grab a bite to eat right here from one of these food trucks. That'll be dinner. And then I've got a camping spot about a half hour from here. I think I'm gonna grab, well, I had Chinese last night, but let me see if we can do something maybe Indian tonight. So, I got some curry chicken and rice. It's delicious. It was a smart order because it's something that's already pre-made. It just needed to be spooned up, so I got my food reasonably quick. It's a lovely evening, even though it's getting dark and I gotta get moving. So, I made it to my campground. It's actually a campground / motel. I had a camping reservation, but I'm looking at these clouds over here and thinking, do I want to be in the tent tonight? I honestly haven't checked the forecast, so, you know, I could have set up my tent over there and maybe that would have been fine. But I asked the guy, I said, how much for just one of these little rooms? And it was like another $25. So I thought, if that keeps me dry, I got my bike parked right out front.
The room is not great, but it's better than the tent. I got a microwave. I got a refrigerator. I have a table. I have a tiny bed that has to be checked for bed bugs. And, it'll do. I did not pay a lot for this. So that's what I decided to do tonight to keep things simple, because it got so late and it is so dark over there in the sky. And for some reason, I don't know why, I seem to have my own fireworks show. Now watch, they'll be done now that I get my camera going. Oh yeah, there's one. Two. I get a kick out of little things like this piece of art, which they have screwed to the wall on the top and bottom, so that someone doesn't steal it. With that, I'm going to sign off for this episode of Palms, Pines, and Fishing Lines. And although we've seen a lot of fishing lines up to this point, I haven't really captured a lot on film. I mean, as soon as we hit Minnesota, it was fishing boats, fishing poles, and lakes everywhere, and it has been pretty much ever since. So I should just probably capture more of that since I titled the series. Have a good night. Except it might not be nighttime when you're watching this.